Yeah. You ain't see me activated. You better hope that you never see me agitated.
All right, here we go. So in the last video, we talked about the inline attribute versus the internal element of using a style tag. Just like up here, we moved all of our inline attributes up into the style element tag inside of the header to provide the data that we want for our CSS to style this document and target specific elements. And so we talked a little bit about that last time, and this time we're just going to move this on over very quickly into its own type of document. And I believe it's Command Shift L, yep, or Command Option L will open up my Explorer here, and Command Option L will also close it. There's a version of that in Windows, I'm sure. But what we want to do is we want to go into our folder, and I think I can reveal this in Finder, boom, and I can see like where it is in my Finder, and I can see what's in this particular folder, which currently is really nothing. And I want to add a CSS file to that, but rather than add it within the Explorer itself, I'm just going to right click and go over to add, and we're just going to find the style sheet here. And then we're just going to call our style sheet app. It's very typical that when you, for example, create any kind of HTML, the very first introduction page, right, your home page, your main opening page, that one is typically called index.html. And when we're creating a CSS file, it's typically called app.css. Now, it doesn't have to be, it can be anything that you want, but ultimately that's just kind of common practice, so to speak, so that other people who are coming in and reading your programming, reading your code, just as well as when you come back and read your code, a lot of coding is not about coding at all. It's like rereading what you've already written, catching up to the moment, kind of figuring out what you're doing next. There's a lot that goes into it, debugging. So, you know, when you're writing code, you're not always just going to be writing code. So you want to write it in a way that is going to be clean and is going to be easier for you to come back and read and understand. So we'll get into more of that kind of conversation here in a near future video, but just want to kind of give you a heads up and start thinking in that way. You know, when you're writing code, think, how am I going to be able to go back and figure out what the heck I just did? Because that's a huge chunk of your job. And sometimes it's not what you did, it's what others have done, and maybe they didn't have such good semantic code, which is just how it's written, right? So, all right, let's get into it. This is a separate file we just created, and it's app.css, and if I reveal that in the Finder, then I have that apps.css now in the file next to my HTML file. Now again, that's normally called index.html, but I've chosen to call mine the YouTube tutorial.html because that's what I'm doing here. Oh look, it shows me the HTML web page there in the little preview, which is nice and nifty and neat. So anyway, who cares about that? Let's go back into the document. And what we want to do is we want to take all of this CSS. And by the way, the format of how it's written here is how it's going to actually be written inside of its own document. What we want to do is just kind of translate it back over here. But we'll get into the specifics of the syntax, which is how it's supposed to be written as far as writing in the language that you're writing in, that syntax. When we're talking syntax, it's actually structured already how it should be. So what we want to do is hit Command X or cut. You can right click and cut if you want to, and cut out that little piece of information. And now let's go take a look at what that web page looks like. It's just kind of plain old Jane, old normal stuff. Wow, my eyes are playing tricks on me. It kind of looks like it's still blue a little bit in there. But in any case, we've now removed the CSS from this document, and now it's a much shorter document, 17 lines. Before it was, how many lines was it? 32, so nearly double, but not quite. Oops. let's get back to where we were. So we cut that out, and what we want to do is we're just going to come over here and paste it right in. And now that doesn't fix it. We've still got this regular plain document here, and what we want is for those to come back. And so what we do is we actually have to tell this document where to find this CSS and then use it. And how we do that is, again, we're going to put the data up in the head so it can provide the document or the browser with styling information for the document and what's being targeted and all that same stuff. But rather than doing the style element, in this one we're going to do the link element. Okay, and automatically you're going to need, if your browser, or I mean, excuse me, if you're in an editor that doesn't have an automatic fill, what you need is, this is a self-closing tag, and so we can do that, and I like to do that as a habit. But this is a self-closing tag, and so there's no open and close to it. And what we do with this link is we have what's called a relationship attribute, and it's a style sheet. We're telling this head information, the document, the browser that's reading it, putting in the data saying, hey, this document needs this style sheet and this, or this other document, and it's going to be a style sheet. That's a relationship. And then over here in the reference href, we're going to put in how to actually get to that. So where is it located? How do we locate this? So we'll get into more about the attributes in detail later on, and we'll kind of get more into all the specifics of what you want to use and when you want to use it. This can definitely be different, and we can also put scripts in here, and we can do various different things, but we'll dive deeper into that later on. And so for now, just kind of know that we need to link these two things up, and right now they're in the same folder. So all we have to do is go, hey, you know, it's right here in the same folder next to me, so it's called app CSS, and you know, just go grab that guy, and we're going to bring it on in here. Then mine automatically saves, and we come back here and things are back to how they were. Not so pretty. So that is, you know, basically a good start to, like, let's call it the introduction to HTML and a lead in to CSS. You've got some basics in, you know, things that we've talked about as far as web browsers and how the front end and back end work. You have your understanding of the path that you're going to be on, things of that nature. I'm going to go ahead and delete some of this stuff. I'm going to get you a good introduction. Matter of fact, there's still a reasonable quick amount of time in this video, so I'm going to go ahead and jam one last thing in here before we call this section good. And the next video we'll start on is 2-1, and we'll get more into involving the CSS side of things in our HTML and actually start building up maybe like you know, our own personal profile page, or like our own type of portfolio page for our own website, for an example. And we can have many pages on there, and we can link around, and we can jump around from this page to that one, and then back, and then so on and so forth. So we will kind of uncover a lot more as we're going forward and start to actually make things look perhaps a little bit better. Now, fair warning, I am not a designer. I am not somebody who makes beautiful things. I know lots of people who are that, but I want to clarify that there's difference in how something's being designed versus how it actually functions and should look. I can take a beautiful design and I can copy it very exactly, and I can create the lines and the shades and the shadows and the blurs and the everything that you need, but I'm not really the one that creates that typically. So some of the stuff I create may not be as beautiful, but we'll go ahead and grab off of ideas off of other things in order to make it beautiful. And so this video is getting already longer with that little explanation, so let me go ahead and move right into what I wanted to do. If you right click and you can say inspect, and there's a couple different ways to get here, but in the Google Chrome editor, or I mean browser, we have basically you can see everything in here, including my comments. You can see everything. You can see all the different elements, and we have something called console, which we're going to get into at some point, and you're going to need to know a lot about that. But for now, I want you to see, like, kind of basically, oh, this thing's getting in the way here, so you know what? I'm going to have to show you guys on this next one because I can't even access it appropriately with that thing popping in the way. I'm going to have to move it this next time around. So let's call it good in this video. Sorry for the lead into nothing, but we will cover up why I use Google Chrome as an editor, and I can't move this around while the video is going, so I'm just going to have to hold off till next time unexpectedly. But next time will be 2-1, and we'll just kind of toss that in on that video. But I appreciate you guys stopping in, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.